Diablo 4, similar to most live service games, have been receiving negative feedback, particularly on Reddit, over the past 5 years. Many people are currently debating on whether or not this kind of feedback is nitpicking or understandable in order for games to be successful, or if perhaps it's not the feedback specifically, but the attitude of the posts. Let's dive into some of Diablo 4's complaints and go over some controversial design choices and patches. Cost of enchantments. In Diablo 4, if you receive a piece of armor or weapon with mostly great affixes, there's a system available where you can swap out one of these unattractive stats with a randomly rolled stat. The controversial part of this system is how the cost of this scales as you continue to repeatedly change an affix. After multiple attempts, you can find that this cost increasingly becomes completely unaffordable. Some players on Reddit have mentioned that as soon as the cost becomes 1 million gold, they decide the item is as good as it's going to get and not worth an extra roll. Hopefully in a future patch, we will see a reduction in the cost scaling, or maybe the developers for Diablo 4 will determine this as a justifiable price of trying to get a god rolled item. Uber uniques. These items in Diablo 4 are extremely powerful equipment that when you have one, it will be the best item you'll ever find. The drawback to this is everyone is extremely unlikely to get one, and it's similar to the chances of winning the lottery. Many people on Reddit are asking the question, why is this even in the game? Some people argue that this is in the game because it will always give you something to chase, and it's part of the ultimate fantasy of becoming a broken powerhouse where nothing can stop you. While others are arguing that this is simply a cheap attempt from Blizzard to get you to never stop playing the game in the hopes you'll discover one. Getting perm CC'd. Sometimes when you run into a large group of elites in the later half of leveling, elites have become so strong that they will almost one-shot you. This is a problematic situation of you have to one-shot elites to not get one-shot back. To make this worse, even if you stack damage reduction enough to not get one-shot, if you run into elites with various crowd control affixes, you'll never be able to break out of being permanently crowd controlled until you die. The developers mentioned in a campfire chat that they will be looking into how to solve this problem and that it is currently on their radar for things to address. Being able to distinguish glyphs and aspects. When browsing through your Codex of Power or your list of rare glyphs, you'll notice that these are impossible to distinguish between unless you hover over them. This leads to extremely long times of trying to compare aspects or glyphs without memorizing their exact position. And then when you go back to the list later, you've completely lost your orientation in where the aspects you want to read are. So you have to start over by reading each individual one over and over again. One Reddit user criticized the effort made by the UI team to make potions so incredibly detailed, but failed to prioritize starting with an important core part of the game like aspects or glyphs. Patch 1.1.0a. This patch was released just before the start of Season 1 in Diablo 4 and was the most controversial patch I've ever seen in a game. Reddit users pointed out after the patch was released, users had dropped the average user rating on Metacritic to 2.2 out of 10. The reason for such a controversial response was the details of the patch. On top of that, high recommended stats for getting stronger received nerfs pretty much across the board, making every build that depended on these stats to be immediately weaker. The scaling effect in experience points was also nerfed. If you fought an enemy 3 levels higher than you, you received a 25% increase to their base experience points. After the patch, this was reduced to 1.5% per level up to a max of 10 levels higher. This also meant that if you defeated a mob 20 levels higher than you, you would only receive the experience points of a monster 10 levels above you, which heavily impacted players' ability to boost or power level their friends. They even gave a nerf to the teleporting time of players from 3 to 5 seconds. This was received by many players as another way Blizzard was trying to slow down their progression in Diablo 4. After watching this video, what do you think were the biggest complaints in Diablo 4? Leave a comment and let everyone know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.